Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's Gaming Friday, I'm Gary.
And I'm Geoff.
And today we're going to sit down and have a look at Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the sequel to Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, which came out in the year 2000.
Wow.
Bloodlines came out in the year 2004. Production actually started on Bloodlines in 2001, so it was made and completed in 3 years.
Yeah.
I say made and completed in 3 years, but what actually came out on store shelves was a very rushed and very incomplete game. This was a case of Troika Games at the time going over budget and going over time,
Right.
and Activision going, okay, well, we're going to release a game no matter what state it's in.
Whoa, that doesn't sound like Activision.
No, it doesn't. That's how Activision's policies remain pretty much the same. You have a year to make this game, then it's going on stores.
Yeah, fucking hell. Nothing changes.
So what we're looking at here is a first/third person sort of action roleplay game.
Yes.
And so right from the get-go, we're going to be forced to create a character.
Yeah. So
Now, I was immediately drawn to the box art of both the vampire games, just because the box art for Redemption just had this classic sort of Dracula-looking vampire on the front, whereas Bloodlines sexed it up big time with Harlequin sort of looking gothic emo vampires all over the place.
Yeah.
And this
depending on the clan.
Well, depending on the clan, but there were a lot of slutty-looking vampires
of course,
all around Vampire the Masquerade.
This is quite an adult-themed game.
Oh, it is incredibly, yes, an adult-themed game. And it also obviously comes from the world of White Wolf Publishing and White Wolf Role-Playing, which obviously is a huge part of Vampire the Masquerade. And this game is sort of born out of the success from that.
Yeah. It's very much a case of that it's really coming from that rich lore, and it very much adds to the game. To be fair, if you're going to role play as a vampire, you want a really decent basis upon which to build it. Anyway, so let's quickly build our character. While in a club, you spot your. I've chosen male already.
Yeah. Okay.
So while in a club, you spot your ex-roommate who skipped out after taking your stuff and leaving you with a stack of bills. He looks dead drunk. Do you...
Option 1, Geoff, just choose it already. People have had enough time to see what that option is, and it's grab him by the head and repeatedly bash his face into the bar. Yes.
Oh, we're probably going to end up being Bruges at this rate.
Possibly. Possibly.
You met someone at a club and they took you back to their place. Things start getting interesting when all of a sudden you hear someone come in at the front door. Their spouse. Do you... Head to the kitchen, let them see you, pretend you're a distant cousin and they were nice enough to let you stay on the couch. Gather up your clothes, hide behind the door and slip out of the apartment as quietly as possible. Or calmly explain you had no idea they were married and that you intend to leave and never come back, keeping your finger over the speed dial in case you need the police.
Where's bash his head into the bar?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, we'll choose...
get in the closet.
Yeah, we'll choose number 2 on this one. We'll stealthily make an exit. Number 2.
Okay. An intruder's broken into your house and entered the room. You have no choice but to confront them. Overpower and wrestle them to the ground, breaking as many bones. Hang on. Or grab the heavy lamp next to your bed and smash their face in.
That does sound quite appealing too.
Or grab your gun and fire into them.
No, we're gonna do this melee style.
Alright.
No firearms.
Yeah, I'm not into the wrestling idea. I much prefer
we'll grab
the
a heavy, immediate weapon. Yeah.
I think that's what I would do.
Well,
I would grab something heavy and smash them over.
Okay, so as you're walking home late at night, you hear footsteps, glance back, and suddenly realize someone is following you. Do you turn and confront them? Duck behind a tree to lose them? So stealth or confrontation?
Confrontation.
Yeah. Okay.
Being a night person, of course, you watch a lot of late night TV movies. 3 movies are on. Which one do you watch? Fist of the Monkey King, a YFU film with that scene where Wu beats 20 armed men with his bare hands. That's the one I would go for.
Nah.
Sword of the Bushi, Japanese film where a lone samurai cuts a path through a gang of Yakuza.
That could be pretty cool.
Good. Yeah. Sergeant
Murderstein 3. Done. We're taking the crazy German cop.
we've got a paradox character here. He's got a
he's got a whole story.
he's Liam Neeson basically.
He is,
Takes on the drug cartel that kidnapped his daughter with only trusty 44 to back him up.
It's got to be Liam Neeson. We'll watch some Liam Neeson stuff.
It's going to be some Liam Neeson. We hear a noise in the middle of the night and decide to investigate. Do you grab the metal bat under your bed or the gun in the nightstand?
Yeah, it's got to be the metal bat.
Yeah. That's pretty much the same as we chose earlier.
So the world is a cruel and unforgiving place, but you've gotten by so far. Why?
Ooh. I live alone. I don't need others. Just me, my dog, and to hell with the rest. Or stay out of sight and the world won't even know you're there.
I don't mind which one you choose.
Ooh.
Well, you have to choose one of them. Okay. So we have been embraced by, oh my god, the Nosferatu clan.
Nosferatu.
This is not a good thing.
Nosferatu.
The Nosferatu embrace twists and deforms the physical appearance, making them abominations in the eyes of men. The Nosferatu are outcasts who have perfected the ability to blend into the shadows and are masters of espionage and information gathering.
So
it doesn't tell you right there, though, that they are fundamentally ugly as fuck.
Yeah. So this is the thing, you can obviously choose and custom build your character, but this was funny.
Yes, answer a series of questions to choose your character.
Right,
okay,
cool.
Now if you are familiar with Vampire the Masquerade in any of its forms, you'll know that there are a wide variety of vampires or vampire clans that make up what's called the Camarilla. Mm-hmm. And the Camarilla is a government body of all of the different clans that all believe in the same ideology of concealing the fact that vampires exist whilst taking power from governments and basically running the planet and doing it as discreetly as possible. Mm-hmm. There is, making up all of those factions, the Nosferatu, who obviously we are being inducted to as now. There's also the Bruja, which you mentioned, which are sort of powerful fighters. They are sort of idealists, but they're kind of anarchists at the same time. Yeah. We also have the Toreadors, which I love to hate, because they are the ones, I guess, of all of the vampire clans,
Sneaky.
The Toreadors are the ones that have retained more humanity than any of the others. Yeah. But at the same time, they're a bunch of ponces. Yeah. They're a bunch of snooty artists.
Yeah, they could be French.
Yes.
They probably mostly speak with a French accent.
Well, one of my absolute favourite vampire subgroups, though, is the Malkavians, and that's simply because they are absolutely insane. You could say they're insane because they'll babble and make no sense, and occasionally, though, some of them will have, insight, if you will, sort of divine insight into what's going on. Yeah. We also have the Ventru, which are sort of the aristocrats, your lawyers, your governors. We have the Nosferatu, as we've mentioned. There's also the Tremere, which are the sort of blood magic, blood-based vampires that like to, drain blood from afar and use sort of spells. Yeah. And then my personal favourite of all of the vampire clans is the Gangrels, which are the animalistic sort of vampires. And of course, if anyone's ever wondered what the tattoo is on my arm, it is of Clan Gangrel. And that is how much of a fan I am of the Vampire the Masquerade, the lore, the roleplay game, and more fundamentally, the original card game, which wasn't even called Vampire the Masquerade at the time. It was called Jihad. Or Jihad.
Yeah, it was first edition, wasn't
it? The Eternal Struggle. And that, for me, was how I was born into vampires in general, really. That was how I discovered vampires, and it was from there that I discovered Dracula and other vampire films, all the way back to this game.
Look at the state of me.
So, at the beginning of this game, I think you play a character that's just recently been turned into a vampire.
I am an
and
ugly
you
dude.
are a Nosferatu, so it makes no surprise that you would be pretty damn ugly. And so damn ugly, you've got to be staked right from the get-go. Although it's safe to say, in the vampire world, you can take a stake to the chest, and you don't necessarily die immediately. You sort of become torporized. Where you become vulnerable then to actually be diablerized, which is the vampiric term for killing another vampire, which of course in the lore that I like is that no vampire is allowed to kill another vampire unless they sort of have the princes or justicars or the inner circle's permission to do so.
Yeah, there's a strict hierarchy here. You can't fuck
So
about.
all of these clans that I've mentioned do have a sort of degree of infighting amongst them all because they all have their different beliefs within the Camarilla.
Yeah.
Which is why we have the rival sort of faction, which are the Sabbat. And they have decided that all power should be shared amongst all vampires and to be damned with whether the humans notice us or not.
Yeah.
And that's where most of the conflict comes from within all realms of Vampire the Masquerade.
Camarilla versus Sabbat.
Pretty much. There are a bunch of independent clans as well, and there's a lot of there's the Giovanni. There's so many other sub clans with outside of the Camarilla and the Sabbat.
Yeah.
But I think this game does incorporate elements of the Gehenna storyline. I think this game did its best to interweave a lot of the lore and the story together and actually stage it out over a series of levels. And my god, that's a big freaking sword.
Yeah, that's somebody getting diablerized, is it, I think?
Pretty much so, yes.
There you go.
They've been dusted.
Yeah. As you can see, there's a committee of people there to ensure it's happened. We are heretics! Or something. Or we've been illegally turned into vampires and we're not supposed to be.
So what I like is, within the Vampire the Masquerade, is the way that all of the different clans are already broken down into all the different sort of abilities that they have.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the Nosferatu that you have excel in what's called Obfuscate, which means they're incredibly stealthy.
Yeah.
And we have the Brujas, which of course have potency. We have the Gangrels, which have animalism and protean.
Yeah.
And the Ventru, which will use a mixture of presence-like abilities where they can sort of use Jedi mind tricks on people.
Yeah.
And just sort of say, you'll let me in, you'll follow me, you'll do as my bidding.
Yeah, art of persuasion.
So I'll be honest and say, though, as much as I enjoyed this game because it brought to life visually everything that I was enjoying about Vampire, this game was, as I said, a buggy, broken POS.
Yeah.
It was, and it crashed on me repeatedly, frequently, to the point of absolute frustration. It was glitchy, as in some of the missions you couldn't complete. Some of the character animations were broken.
Yeah.
There was sections of the game that were missing and just totally unfinished. Yet this game, which came out in 2004, was patched as late as September 2015.
Yep, yep.
This game, when it came out, sold less than 80,000 copies
Oh, wow.
and was critically panned.
Yeah.
So much so that Troika Games went under within just a few months of the game's release. They couldn't secure any more work from anywhere because of the dire reception of this game. I mean, this game did come out using the Source game engine, which hadn't even been revealed at the time. And this game actually came out very close to Half-Life 2, which is why you could also consider that this game was sort of forgotten and abandoned by PC gamers because that was the only platform it came out on.
Yeah. Well, it certainly wasn't. It may have been forgotten by the majority, but it certainly wasn't abandoned, was it? Though?
It certainly
that's
wasn't
the thing.
abandoned. The community of players, the die-hard fanatics of Vampire, have kept this game going. So much so that they've managed to restore content that was missing. They've managed to get into the directories of the game and found additional files that were doing nothing, and sort of rebuilt the game, kept patching the game.
Yeah.
And like I said, just as recently as last year, this game is still having work done on it from the fans. And that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
That there was what you could consider a hidden masterpiece within this game, which is why it is such a pleasure to talk about.
Well, that's it. There's nothing else, is there? If you're a Vampire the Masquerade fan, then there is simply nothing else.
Well,
on PC or on any platform that's going to scratch that itch, is there?
No. There was a very dodgy 12-episode miniseries of Vampire the Masquerade, which was so bad I think it might have got a second season, but it was cancelled very quickly.
Yeah.
It just didn't really have the budget. I think the only thing that ever reminded me, outside of Vampire the Masquerade, of that lore would be the Underworld movies, which I do believe were partially sued by White Wolf Publishing upon the release of that film, with the way that they handled vampiric council members, especially vampires versus werewolves, because the White Wolf universe has a variety of demons and supernatural creatures, other than the vampires of which it's centered upon.
This is the thing is as well. It's a role-playing game at heart, isn't it? It's a book-based role-playing game, in its origin.
Yes,
and the card game was there to kind of like support that and to give something else to sell for White Wolf to sell.
Yeah,
but really, this kind of role-playing game is where it's at, isn't it? Like, if you turn a book-based role-playing game into anything, you want to turn it into a fully fledged 3-dimensional build up your character, design your character how you want role-playing game on PC. This is like the kind of perfect scenario for it. So there doesn't really seem to be any reason why
a little bit stuttery.
Yeah, a little bit. It doesn't seem to be any reason why you wouldn't want a game like this. This is the perfect like realization of the whole system, I would say.
Yes, yeah. And we haven't really approached the gameplay of the game yet. Now, for the most part of the gameplay, you are in first-person view mode, and it kind of, I guess I would equate it to something like Deus Ex, in terms of the fact that you have multiple approaches to every mission in every scenario. You can take the stealth approach. You can decide you're not going to murder anybody, which is pretty boring.
Oh, I think I killed him.
Or you can decide to go berserker mode. You can decide to drain all of your humanity, which you can't. I think if you drain it all too much, I think you just become an insane creature, and then it's game over.
Yeah.
So you do have to kind of balance how you play the game,
but
you are offered plenty of freedom.
Yeah.
You also have to be careful when you decide that you need to drain civilians on the streets, because if you're seen by other people, they will run away and report you to vampire hunters, which will turn up and immediately end your game also.
Yeah.
So you have to role play a vampire. So, and what's interesting is that depending on, I guess, your humanity level, also depends on the dialogue options that come up in the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you are too animalistic or too barbaric, the game won't even give you an option. You'll just become frenzied and attack.
Yeah, that's one of the things that happens more frequently as you lose your humanity.
Yeah, there are ways and there are missions in order to regain humanity or alter your choices, but also just depending on what race you are, whether you are Nosferatu or Toreador, will also affect dialogue options and affect other missions and other characters that you'll come across, because like any good RPG, you'll come across characters and then you'll have to decide whether you want to work for Big Tits McGee or whether you want to work for, XYZ Biker Man.
Yep.
So
yeah, and I love vampires, I really do, and the idea of being able to play as a vampire is, right up my street.
And I mean, throughout most of this game, it's all set in 21st century LA. You go to Chinatown, you go to just a few other areas, but it's all set in LA. What I liked about the game previous to this, Redemption, was that you started off in like 12th century Venice, and then you ended up going to like 19th century London, and then finally to LA as well. And so it had a lot of different time zones. You got to see your character through centuries,
right.
Whereas in this game, you just sort of rank up and level up as a vampire extremely quickly. I think the overarching storyline in this game is fairly interesting. Like I said, it is from the Gehenna sort of storyline, which sort of deals with the end times for all vampires. Storyline wise, there was one vampire, Cain.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, it had to be Cain,
Yeah.
who is the father of all vampires.
Yeah.
And should he ever be prophesied to return, he would wipe out all of his children. so to speak.
Right. Why? Because he's got too big an ego.
I think he would just drain them all so he'd have all their powers backed into himself, or because he's, I don't know, it's cyclical and
he'd become the ultimate vampire.
Indeed. So I think in this game the idea is that you are eventually trying to find this parcel or this item which is something to do with Kane, which is foretold to destroy all vampires. But I can see right now that the game is looking a little bit stuttery and a little bit jerky still.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing I just need to just like sort out some settings for this. I'm not quite sure why I've got the stuttering, but yeah, I mean this is the thing. All I've done here is might be to do with the mouse sensitivity. Yeah, all I've done, as you can see, unofficial patch 9.4. All I did was install the game and then run that patch.
So how available is the game now? Can you purchase this from Steam?
Yes, you can indeed. Yeah, that's where I got this from. But yeah, it will, like the FMVs won't run and it won't run properly standard. As you can see, just like with my hardware, I don't know if this is the true of all hardware, but it seems to have some yeah, I don't think it's a mouse smoothing issue. It seems to be a frame stuttering issue.
Definitely.
But there's probably a way to fix that. I'm not entirely sure how. I don't know where I'm supposed to go from here.
Well, this is a game that doesn't always hold your hand, and
yeah, it looks like it.
And that was one of the irritating, frustrating parts of the game, because even though it doesn't hold your hand, you do expect to be able to figure out certain things on your own. But when it becomes a case of walking around and clicking and repeating same actions over and over again, expecting a different result,
yeah,
it can sort of drive you a little bit insane. Like I said, I wasn't ever able to finish this game. I would just love for this game to be remade. I've always said that you can't ever polish a turd.
Yeah,
but
this one's one hell of a polished turd.
This is one hell of a polished turd, because it could be so much more. And it's I don't know whether it's the fact that I have a love of the universe for White Wolf Publishing and of Vampire the Masquerade, that I was willing to say that this game's better than what it appears.
Yeah.
But then I'm reminded already now just by these instances as to why I gave up on the game.
I'm guessing I've got to go up here. That's what it looks like. Yes, this is it. I must have to jump up here. Yeah, man.
So what I did also like was that, obviously being a fan again of the lore, that a lot of the characters and a lot of the vampires from the card game and from the lore actually have small appearances in this game as well.
Yeah.
They did have some fairly decent voice actors in as well. Of course, I can't work. There was most people know that I'm a fan of the Supernatural TV show, and there was a couple of actors from there.
Right.
Having some trouble breaking glass there.
Looks like it. I think I'm supposed to go this way. Oh.
Stay away from the windows. Oh, it's a Sabbat raid.
It's a Sabbat raid.
Okay. So, yes, vampires within the community, killing vampires is bad, but vampires killing Sabbat vampires, not a problem.
Yeah. If you're Camarilla, then fine. Kill Sabbat. I mean, filthy rebels.
The Sabbat vampires are actually a hell of a lot more repulsive looking than the Nosferatu, I would say.
Yeah.
Just because they're like shapeshifters, they're like body mutators. They like to turn all of their limbs into like spiked weapons. Imagine like the T-1000 from Terminator, but actual flesh instead.
Yeah. Meaty.
It's kind of like they're like the Thing creature.
Heads up.
There they are. Look, there they are. I'm guessing that's a gangrel, is it?
I would say that's probably a gangrel, yeah.
This guy's a badass, I think.
Of course, weapons are a big part of Vampire the Masquerade as well as magic.
Yeah. Oh. See, he seems to have control over some sort of wolf spirits. Oh wow, he just evaporated him. This guy's like an uber badass. Now see me. And he's just walked away. He could have just evaporated me like nothing, but apparently I'm good.
I'll stay and keep a watch out.
So you said you only previously played the game for about an hour.
Yeah.
Was there a reason why you stopped, or what was the reason why you came to it in the first place?
I got into it because I bought the game because I was like, it's Vampire the Masquerade, and I love the card game. I love the whole lore of Vampire the Masquerade, and I'm looking forward to playing this RPG. But the reason I haven't played it is exactly the same reason why I haven't played The Witcher, and I haven't played a whole bunch of RPGs again for ages, basically. Like I know it's going to be like 150 to 200 hours, and it's going to be just this. I haven't completed Fallout 4 yet. I haven't completed like pretty much every fucking
RPG you played in the last 8 years, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mass Effect was the last RPG I completed from beginning to end. I got to the end of that and I was pissed off. And and then I was like, well, to be honest, you know, most of my gaming now is pick up and put down. You know, I'm snatching an hour here, a couple of hours there, and I haven't really had the time to get into the meat and bones. And I hate getting 40, 50 hours into a game, and then losing the thread of it and not picking it back up again later and having to start all over again.
Yeah, especially because this game does have a variety of side missions and bonus missions depending on some of your character choices and also of what vampiric design you are.
Yeah.
Which does mean that there is some replayability in this game as well. But there are some varied side missions which do keep it interesting. But the main narrative of the game, like unfortunately most RPGs, is not the bread and butter of the game.
Yeah.
Because for most RPG gamers, once you get into a game, you've got your character, you're presented with your main storyline, and then you go and do everything else but that main storyline.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, you can only do a few side missions, then you have to do storyline again. So in terms of the fact that it is open, it is very linear and very closed within Vampire the Masquerade, which is great though,
because it keeps the narrative driving.
Going, and it keeps you invested in the story to make you want to get to the end.
Which is a bit like the Mass Effect thing, if you remember
very much
rightly.
so. Yes, Mass Effect did that well enough, but it was like, but at least with Mass Effect, it was like you have all of these side missions for all of your characters, all of your companions. You could pick and choose to do them in any order, pretty much off the bat.
Yeah.
Whereas this one here will, as you go from area and zone to zone, once the main story is moved forward, the environment changes. People will perceive you or befriend you differently.
Yeah.
And so on.
I mean, I've got hundreds of games at the moment, and you know, I've really completed probably about just over a quarter of them, and so that means the selection I have is just mind-blowing right now. So this is a game that I will get to and I will play, you know, but it's just picking my moment when I'm like, right, I'm really in the mood for vampires and there's nothing else that's going to scratch that itch, and I'm going to sit down and play it. I mean, one of the things I've also got that I bought on sale recently is Legacy of Kain.
Right.
And
now that is what I would also consider one of the best series of vampire games on both PC and console.
Yeah. So I mean you know, when you put that all together, then I really do need to. I've got to figure out a password for this. Open Sesame.
Your password has failed.
So probably some indication in here of how to get into it, isn't there?
This is a game also that I would love to
Shop.
Love to come back and play again, especially seeing all of the fixes that have been done by the fans and the community that have supported it. But I can't imagine it being as long as most of the other RPGs.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm hoping it's not going to be 200 hours because that will be a little bit more than I was bargaining for. But if it is, I'm still fine with that, you know. Like, when I sit down to play this game, I will give it the time. But right now I've got just like a bunch of stuff in the queue, and this is just a bit further down the queue. I will get to it, you know, and probably will play this before I get to Legacy of Kain.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I definitely do recommend this game to anyone who's looking for a really a very affordable game right now, and that is to deal with vampires. And for me, The Vampire the Masquerade is the most comprehensive vampire lore in any realm of media that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
And it is deep, and it is thought-provoking, and it's
Nuanced.
filled with fantasy and all the nuances of all of these different personality, character types. And this game does a very good job of portraying it to an extent that, so long as you're able to see past some of the limitations that are in this game.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, when I first played this game, I didn't have any of the frame stuttering issues when I first got this going. I mean, there's probably a couple more things I need to do to tweak the performance of how this works.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm certain that that's what it is, because I remember when I first played this, I didn't have this sort of frame stuttering issues.
Yeah.
But as you can see, they've done quite a lot to sort of uprate the look and graphics. There's even been, by the looks of it, some sort of texture upgrades and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's, it still holds up graphically, I think. There's some very dodgy textures on the sides there.
Yeah.
In places it seems like some are much better than others, but yeah, this is a game I'm looking forward to, and the voice acting seems to be, alright in places, and it seems like something I can very much enjoy. But the main key thing about this game is that vampire, the eternal struggle lore, and it's all about that variety of all the different clans and being able to build your own vampire the way you want in that universe. And I do love that universe. It's fun, it's exciting, and yeah, there's a lot of thought gone into it. So
yeah, definitely check out Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Yeah, definitely worth a go if you're at all a fan of vampires, and especially if you're a fan of Vampire the Masquerade. Absolutely, this is a must-buy.
Alright, well that's it from both of us here at Off the Shelf Reviews. We'll be back next Friday with another video game. You can join Ian and myself tomorrow for another episode of Shell Shock Nam 67, film reviews on Thursdays. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Patreon. Links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy.
If some asshole levels a 12 gauge your way, you drain him, skin him, and bash in his skull. Self-preservation is a vital part of humanity after all. My favorite part, in fact.